Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we're bringing you day 189, a daily Ukraine war diary done in a form of a discussion between Russian opposition journalist Mark Feygin and advisor to the office of the President of Ukraine, Olexiy Arestovych. Dear friends, I'm glad to see you all again on Feygin Live. This is Wednesday, August 31st, 10 p.m. in Kiev, and we're doing another stream, day 189, with Olexiy Arestovich. Glad to see you, Olexiy, here. Good evening, everybody. Likewise. Over 100,000, practically 120,000 are watching us live. Over 20,000 of you clicked the like button. Please continue doing that. A usual ask from you, please share links to your social groups, social media, to that stream, to the original one or to the one translated by Privateer Station. If we do want that information to reach out wider audience, we need to make sure that it is liked and shared. And of course, subscribe to Feigin Live, Privateer Station, and Olexiy Arestovich. Also, do not forget to click that bell button. Let's start where we left it last time, Kherson and south of Ukraine, and right bank. Did anything change there in the last couple days? Well, it is difficult, and probably we shouldn't expect fast, rapid changes in that area. This is somewhat a longer frame story. There are about 25-30 Russian battalion tactical groups, and it will not be possible to swiftly take them out of that bank, but what we can do and what we are doing is figuring out their logistics supply lines and depots and taking them out with HIMARS and artillery. So one also needs to understand the overall role of Kherson in 1,300-mile length front. So many people think that this is a new Ukraine military tactics to announce de-occupation, but your actions are somewhat hindered by reluctance to waste your resources and men, because usually casualties are 3-1 on the offender side. So that's why Ukraine military is not going to the rapid offensive mode. Is that the reason, or you guys do not have enough resources to create a proper offensive? So when did our viewers and general masses hear last time, or where did they get the idea of a rapid offensive? Well, they've seen attacks in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. So wait, what were they attacking there? 2 small locations, and they lost thousands of people, and then sent 9 battalion tactical groups out for rotation after they were completely wiped out. This is a so-so story. The last rapid offensive was back in early 2000s, the one that led to serious strategic consequences when American and British Army together attacked Iraq Army. And that was possible also after Iraq Army was under sanctions from the end of 90s till 2003, and they were kind of crumbling by that time. Also, there are not too much natural barriers there, and quantity-wise, Americans and Brits were much bigger. Also, there was a fight of 2 armies of different evolution, different stages. Army level 5 versus Army level 3. And here we have two relatively similar level armies. Earlier, when the front was very difficult, when things were rapidly changing and there were protrusions on both sides of the front, then you could do maneuver fighting and hit them on the flanks and figure things out like that. Right now, the front is generally stable, and one needs to literally break through. And there is one option to break it like Russian troops do, losing armor, losing personnel, en masse. And the other option is to use artillery, aviation, HIMARS, and mow them down to the level when they cannot hold the front any longer, when they'll be so thin that they cannot do it physically, and also their morale will be so low that they will refuse to hold the front. So something like that. Another question is about referendum. There were some publications today, I think Insider published some stuff where they took some data or got some leaked data. So they published that a referendum will occur, but not as a referendum as political voting, but more like a political news, that Russia is still planning to claim that there would be a nominal annexation of that territory. So can we, what do you think in light of the current Ukrainian offensive? Does it affect it? They're really scared when this operation started. Then they quietly removed referendum from the headlines. Now then, when they see that this operation will not be too rapid, they're starting to bring referendum back in the lines. So if they're planning referendum based upon the tempo of our operation, that means that we are in control of that process, right? So that is a sign of the loss of initiative on their side. They can still announce that the referendum happened. What will it change? Today, European Union announced that passports given out by Russian Federation and the occupied territories will not be recognized as valid on the EU territory. So we'll talk about that separately, but that's a good subject. Let's look in the meantime at the other parts of the front. We'll show the map again. We'll get back to this question, but we do want to understand if Moscow is using somehow that situation when there is a counteroffensive operation going on in the south. Does it affect in any shape anything else? What is happening near Pisky and Avdiivka and higher up? Similar things that were happening there before. They're trying to fulfill their earlier orders. Nothing quite works for them. They can't move even by a kilometer, but they're still trying. The problem you see with the Russian command is that they don't know where to put that Third Army Corps they moved in. That means one very specific thing. They don't understand our concept. They don't understand our intent. So until they do, they will not be able to plug that core on a certain part of front. So until then, they're just moving it behind and doing some shuffling. And they need to be very fast on their feet because HIMARS are not sleeping. Because we are tracking where they bring new armor, where they're unloading, where ammo dumps are located, where troops are gathered, river crossings. We are tracking these targets. So they have to be rather active not to get hit. So can we think that they're throwing some of that Third Corps down to the south to prevent the fast offensive? Mark, they brought some force to the right bank, but relatively not a big one. Most of them are still on the left, waiting to see what happens. So for the third corps, actually, the question is to be thrown towards Donetsk front, to the eastern front, or to the southern front near Kherson. And this is good. This is good. That means that our intentions are not visible. So do you think the offensive would unfold more successful if you had certain weapons that perhaps you don't have, maybe bigger numbers, artillery, armor, something else? Yes, we could also definitely use about other 30,000 well-trained and well-motivated infantry. You think infantry, okay, so why don't you have them? You know, motivated infantry and well-trained infantry is a precious commodity. They probably cost as much as HIMARS. I would want to say that out of about 1 million people currently fighting on our front, only about 200,000 have military background, military experience. And some of them are back from 2014, so that's not exactly fresh. And most of the remaining amount have not been professional military servicemen. So they've got machine guns, they've got rifles. We've trained them, but this is a fast training scenario. We are trying to protect our people, to save our people, not to waste them. All right. So, does Moscow counter your actions? Did they increase their intensity in any way? Or it's still relatively the same? They brought some troops to the right bank with the pontoon bridges, and they're trying to do counter maneuvers there, some counteroffensive. On the other parts of the front, it's a mixed bag. In some parts we are on the move, in some parts they are on the move. The usual locations we've discussed dozens of times. To the north and to the south of Bakhmut, near Avdiivka, and trying to get to Opitne, and near Vuhledar they're also moving. Although this is a very mixed situation there. Earlier they were pressing on us, pushing on us, and we were standing. And now it's kind of an intermix. In some parts we are pushing, in some parts they are. But they cannot do it as intensive as they've done before, like near Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, because they don't have reserves and a proper amount. And we could, but we're not doing that because we are saving our troops. Every Ukrainian soldier is worth his weight in gold, so this makes fast successes almost impossible. And this makes it more of a gradual grinding away of the Russian targets. Find target, identify target, verify, hit. Find, identify, strike. Find, identify, strike. So, in some parts we concentrate efforts. Also, we do not hit all the targets we see, we hit only the ones that fit our general intention. Also, if just go bird's eye view from that now, and remember the military classics that the phase of preparation for the offensive is a lengthy process. It's not even a one-day thing. That's why I'm warning everybody, do not expect fast, rapid developments on this front. This is a slow, methodical grind. As Clausewitz said, military fighting is easy to study, it's simple, but it's very difficult to fight. Because against you, you have the foe, the weather. Also, your communication between the troops needs to be perfect, and it takes time to perfect that. With all the pressures of people dying and real threats. So, in our case, this happens gradually, rather carefully. We need big results. We don't need rapid events. We don't have those artificial dates to deliver something to the top command by 1st of September or 10th of September. So we're reaching our goals, and there will not be a rapid result as some people were expecting, because every rapid result is usually achieved by a lot of blood. And we see in Russian actions even a slow result is a lot of blood. We don't like such an example of fighting. We taking a different approach. We're slowly going down the hill to own the whole herd. For now, it's very pointed attacks at strategic parts. For example, bridges today, there were 4 successful hits on the bridges and pontoon crossings just during the daylight. And that's all in the south, right? That's Kherson. Bridges across Dnieper River. Yes, that's activity to isolate their group on the right bank. All right, we've been live for 15 minutes. Hello to everybody who just joined us. 380,000 watching us live. Everything else you know. Let's talk about the International Nuclear Commission that took off to inspect Zaporozhye nuclear plant. With some adventures, Moscow refused to affirm a couple people from that delegation, considering that they claiming that they are intel community from Britain or US. So we kind of prognosticated that something like that will happen. Do you know if they arrived or not? Because they had some. It was rather difficult to get to the station. As far as I've heard, they have not gotten there yet. I don't know where they are exactly, and I doubt anybody will give you exact data. They've been in Kiev yesterday, and they left to the station, but it's hard to tell where they are geographically. Because, Mark, these are people going to the area of fighting, and it's not good for people not involved in that inspection to know exact location of that commission. So, in your opinion, what results can we expect from that commission? I think we talked yesterday about that. I think the best we can expect from them is some statement that presence of Russian troops on that station presents immediate threat to nuclear catastrophe, and the best option that can be provided is rapid removal of Russian troops from the station area. Well, Russians will not follow through with that. But we're not talking about how Russians will take it. We're talking about the commission, right? Then what is their role? Well, this is the organization, the only organ in the world that's tasked with monitoring nuclear safety. So if they don't make a statement that this is a dangerous situation, nobody else can. They have to make a statement, not you and me. I mean, people love us, but I don't think they'll follow through with, or will have weight in nuclear society. So that's another sign that, fast things don't happen on this war. This is somewhat a slow process, including diplomacy that sometimes seems useless. Like when a UAV drops a little munition on the top of Russian armored vehicle that damages it, and one can throw hands up in the sky and say, oh, that doesn't really change things. There are thousands more of them. But this is the path. It's a slow accumulation of success. Eventually, you're grinding away. Eventually, on some part of diplomatic front, you gain certain successes. Then you create certain precursors or conditions that allow you to break through. And, for example, that visa situation in Europe is another good example of that. There are opposing sides, there are people for banning Russian tourists in Europe. So what we have at the end, there is not a full success option, but we at least got some intermediate step when long-term visas are not available for Russian citizens anymore. So process of easy access to Europe has been removed for them. Can we consider that as a victory? Probably an intermediate milestone. Exactly, same thing with nuclear commission. Even if they just write a paper saying that presence of Russian troops and their actions around the nuclear plant may lead directly to or cause nuclear catastrophe. So the head of this commission, Mr. Grossi, stated that our goal is prevention of nuclear catastrophe. And he added that our mission is technical, not political, technical. So technical meaning that he limits his capabilities about recommendations and offered solutions. But this is good. He positions himself as a non-political character in this case. He comes there as a technical specialist. They observe the station and make a report that these and these actions near the station or involving equipment of the station may cause so and so consequences. And that's exactly what is needed. And he can also add, I'm not a politician, I'm an engineer, but if you guys continue in the same way, there'll be a catastrophe here. There'll be a new Chernobyl, only bigger. Do you want that or do you not? And that is a huge victory, diplomatic victory for Ukraine if that happens. And not just for Ukraine, but for the whole world, and a big hit on the Russian diplomacy and their big failure. All right, let's talk more about visas and more details. Reaction in Moscow is rather painful. Senator Klishas, also known in Moscow forums as the Klit, he announced that Russia will respond in a similar manner to restrictions imposed on them by Europeans. I suspect what they'll do the same thing. They'll restrict options to leave the country for their own citizens. Back in USSR, we had a special department that allowed citizens to leave the country. I think they're re-implementing that, appears so. Oh yeah, so that's an old strategy. Let's bomb Voronezh. Yeah, that's the usual thing. Voronezh is, side note, Voronezh is a Russian city, and it's a common saying in Russia that in order to respond to something, some sanctions from the West, you just destroy something within the country as an act of revenge, sarcastically. So, Olexiy, tell us, do you think this measure, the long-term visa, tourist visas limitation, that will probably affect the senators, Putin's oligarchs, and cronies who are mining money while he's in power, their families, their children, probably their prostitutes? Do you think this will somehow affect internal situation? It is hard to tell, Mark. You probably should say that instead of me. Well, I have an opinion, but I want to hear that from you. I do not know the level of dependency of Russian bureaucrats from their travels to Europe. Oh, it is considerate. It is rather big, considerable. Then the effect will be notable. It probably will erode some of their loyalty. Now, what will you do after that loyalty erodes? You'll still cling to Putin, or you'll start to do some Italian protest in some capacity? Yeah, no, I don't think they'll actively protest. So it is a cocktail of fear and upset on their side. Yeah, they'll probably be upset at European Union and at Putin. What can a bureaucrat do? He can be afraid and be angry. So they likely will have more psychological pressure. They'll feel that they do suffer some effects of this war, and the usual way of life is somewhat crumbling. And a human is somebody who is fond of psychological research. I can tell you that people usually can endure a lot of strikes, a lot of hits, if their general life maintains the same cadence and same tempo. They can survive even big hits if they're short term. But if something occurs that changes their daily routines, that changes their style of life, their comfort. That's usually causing inconvenience and insecurity factor psychologically. So, and you also remember how Russians were, they said, well, Brits and Americans, yeah, they're against us, but Europeans always thought that they're pussies, they cannot do anything against us. And I'm just quoting, for example, Russian bureaucrats. Look at what Germany is saying, what Scholz is saying, look what is going on in Europe. Even our German allies are saying that, and I'm talking from the standpoint of Russian bureaucrats, that even Germany seems to be eager to accept Ukraine into European Union. So this is somewhat concerning. They never took Europeans seriously. They thought Europeans will always fall on their back and fold if Russia pushes. But right now their picture will start cracking. They'll have to reevaluate the capabilities of their influence in the world. I would tell you then that this is a good medicine for them. This is a good cocktail psychologically, the disruption of their lifestyle and overall life picture, for their sobering and return back to reality about what Putin is doing, where Russia is going under his leadership. Because if that wasn't happening, they would do business as usual, travel to Europe the same way. What would change in their lives? Nothing, right? Apparently you can do occupational warfare in Europe, kill children and capture women and be fine. So the lesson in that, unless these uncomfortable things happen, would be you can still do whatever you want as long as it doesn't occur in your territory. So now they start to suffer some consequences. That's good. Yeah, somebody said they want to run the war like Stalin did, but they want to live like Rothschild and use the goods of Western civilization. They're very fakely patriotic. Those fairy tales that even the worst of Russian corrupt bureaucrat who's stealing, who's raping women in saunas, he still has some core deep inside who would still go take arms and defend his motherland. But in reality, that's a fake story. The end of Soviet times already gave birth to a type of bureaucrat that is completely indifferent to all these patriotic screams and moans about motherland, because they're sending their children to study abroad. They hide their money in the West. They like visiting and living there. They invest there. So it's obvious. Your motherland is where your money is. So from that point of view, I think for them this is a very important element of hedging their own destiny. This is a beautiful way you put it. One also wants to add here that human and society trains only in two ways. You either are on a path of continuous growth when you take courses, you train yourself, you improve, you learn, or through crisis and catastrophes. And it's apparent that Putin's machine, Putin's bureaucrats, and average Russian citizen apparently do not follow the first path. So they're getting their training through crisis and catastrophes. And if these crises do not happen, then nothing changes, then they don't learn. And there is nothing to fear. What responsibility are you talking about? What to worry, what to be concerned of? So when their lifestyle is changing, when they cannot hedge their lives in the manner they used to, then they may start thinking. And thinking is a good thing. It's a little hope that probably will bring certain changes somewhere later beyond the horizon. You probably heard Gorbachev also died on the 92nd year of his life. Regardless of our attitude to him, he's an epoch. I personally I'm not a fan of him. I was in what they called radical unions and movements back in the end of 80s, like Democratic Union. But regardless, he is definitely willy-nilly became as a president of the Funeral Commission of the Soviet Union. And like Keitel signed a pact, only a pact of defeat in the Cold War. That's the cup he was served in his life. But most people in Russia consider him to be a traitor and a person who destroyed everything. But I would say that that smaller group that thinks that they own freedom of speech, different personal freedoms to his actions, that he was the one who started that vector and allowed Communist Party to slack their hold on the people's lives in Russia, to loosen that hold. But that smaller group actually thinks that in the 90s it was not too bad, it was actually fun. And somehow, right now, that whole bigger situation brought Russia into the position where they're living in a gulag again. I understand that Yeltsin's position is the one that is being pinned on because he brought that current dwarfen leader. What about Gorbachev? What's your opinion about him? I think Gorbachev bears responsibility for these detente wars or relaxation wars after the crumbling of the empire. The subjects of that empire are duking it out. Not too many people remember. When he got to power, he did not start with that perestroika. His actually first task was to win in Afghanistan. The 1986 was the year of the biggest losses in Afghanistan and very forceful operations there, when they threw basically everything to win. Of course, they failed, but he did give an order to finish that war and to win. Then when he failed there, he gave a second order for perestroika, right? So people think that the West won Cold War. Not exactly, because in Vietnam they lost, in Korea not exactly, Cuba they were not successful times for the West. So similar, Gorbachev, when he announced reforms in Soviet Union, in very short terms, he realized that he is not capable to handle Russian special services and KGBs and military guys and those groups. So his main conundrum was to define the strategy that he needs to use to stay in power. Did he declare war on them? No, he didn't. He did pick on them a bit after certain cruise flights and some other events that happened, but he determinedly caused external defeat, in my opinion, for Soviet Union to be able to then disarm the military KGB group up top that did not want to let him rule. And knowingly, I think he led them to lose certain events outside to cause or to prepare his own victory on the inside. But the question is, did he manage to succeed? Because everything ended in Faros. When Gorbachev failed, Yeltsin jumped on a tank. Russia declared independence from whom? Baltic countries jumped ship immediately. They announced independence right away. Ukraine joined that bandwagon only a year later. And then union elites of the republics decided that we need to say goodbye to Gorbachev, and the only way to say goodbye to him when the military coup was not possible would be to put an end to USSR. And then in Beloversky Pushcha, Yeltsin, Shushkevich, and Kuchma signed a treaty that defined the course of major countries, major nations comprising USSR. And now we can talk about personalities and other things that they wanted to become Rothschilds and enjoy the riches of the West. But we can also consider that it was a fight between two people, personal characters and different values and different systems. Yeltsin and Gorbachev, they were on the opposite sides, and also different clans. Yeah, the Soviet Union clan and the support of the external factors, external allies. And when did you guys have your first free elections? Back in 1989? Yeah, to the 88, to the High Council of Russian Federation. Russian congressman. So first they let the economy go a little looser. Then they added freedom of speech. Then they figured they cannot reform economy without changing politically, and then that's when they started doing the political changes in the Communist Party of Russia. But that did not result in much change at the end, because people who are in power now in Russia, they are the ones who took the fall of USSR as their personal defeat. Because back then they were the ones who just started doing their careers, their political careers and military careers, and then they were, okay, we got a bloody nose and a couple of things, but we'll still fight, we'll get back on our feet, and we'll figure it out. It's a real struggle. They lost in a very weird manner. They couldn't even join the fight. When Gorbachev destroyed the Soviet Union, by hook or by crook, I'm not sure if he did it willfully, but USSR fell apart. They didn't have a subject to fight for. I was 16 at that time when that was happening, but even then I could see, looking at his behavior, even without internet and communication, it was obvious that he allowed for that coup to happen. He was not a captive. He was somewhat allowing that event to happen. And that's when the last part of his moral authority failed after that coup, because people saw that he's partaking in that or not being active to stop it. And Yeltsin used that. And so the groups that are in power now, they will not, I don't think they'll do official funeral service for him. Yeah, they still got beef with him. So there were two groups, there were two fields. This group, for example, pro-USSR group, they lost playing hockey. They wanted to go play back poker. They came back to the poker table to win, and then they figured that the table is gone and the cards are burnt. It's the feeling of people who prepared for the second round to turn the Soviet Union in a fortress, impenetrable fortress, and to recover their military might again. And they figured there is nothing to play with. Now they need to just walk away. And the remnants of their lives, these people were trying to compensate for that event that Gorbachev created for them. And for that, they wanted to create the table, the cards, get the battlefields, but the table doesn't quite work because they started making it in the same shape and the same way as they used during the Cold War. Unrecognized republics, proxy wars. They couldn't even resolve the first task of collecting Soviet Union-ish structure again. And they tried to get power anyway. It just shows once again that this group is very myopic. Yeah, the genius of management of the world history. Very mediocre. I think Gorbachev was also mediocre. Time was probably awesome, but he personally was rather mediocre. And these guys are even worse. They did not get any Soviet proper training because in the Soviet Times Minister did mean something. He had to go through everything to actually get to that position. He understood a lot of things, regardless of how people and what people say about Soviet Union. Ministers, they had their weight. I'm not sure about Politburo, but specialists, they knew their stuff. And current Putin's team, who they were, Patrushev, Shoigu, they're somewhat weak figures, and the only difference from Gorbachev is that they have no principles. They are just going for power and money. But otherwise, they're just as myopic and mediocre. Reagan was meeting Gorbachev when at first he was remembering that when he saw them at some meeting, and there was a group of Gorbachev and people in gray suits, and they're all wearing the same dress. And he figured he'll have to fight now with ideologically strong Soviets. But then he saw that he has Cartier watch, and he figured, okay, it'll be much easier. And there was an interview also with Ahmad Shah Massoud in Afghanistan when he was remembering some secret negotiations with Soviets. And he says, I'm sitting against my counterpart, and I'm trying to understand the person who is sitting against me. And he's a full colonel, Soviet colonel in front of me, bodyguards, military might behind him. So I'm sitting there thinking, not sure how the negotiations will go, but he keeps looking somewhere. So I was wondering, where is he looking at? So I turn back and I see a double-deck cassette player, and I figured that, yeah, we won these negotiations. I actually gave him that cassette player as a present. And the current top of Russia is the group that is building palaces for themselves, that are gilding their toilets. They killed a lot of kids and families in doing so, including in Ukraine. But half the Russia is still without access to natural gas. There are villages with remarkably way backward utility systems. So now I think these people, the funny part is that this group that is so power hungry and just doing all these mistakes, now they're also probably upset with Gorbachev's death, whom they couldn't really pay back by restoring that structure, that para-USSR-ish structure, and now he decided and died. So they can't even tell him, see, we zeroed out your excess. So Gorbachev, in this view, he went away undefeated. There were so many talks in Russia post Gorby that he is a national traitor and he should be executed, but yeah, he slipped away. By the way, he did live his last years in Bavaria. Okay, we've been live for 42 minutes. Another brief subject. Today, roundtable that did not occur, that was planned for a while. Not too long, but we were talking about armed Russian resistance and push by Ponomarev to get together 3 detachments, Legion Free Russia, Russian Volunteer Corps, and that new phantom structure, National Republican Army, that we don't know much about. That's Russian armed opposition. And today we were going to partake, and you, me, and Anton Gerashenko in that roundtable. We announced that on our channel, and we wanted to do a live stream. Many people are asking what happened, why did that not occur? Do you know anything about that subject? Let's close let's close our show with that today. And I know it's not closing forever, it just takes more effort, and I think Ponomarev, who is coordinating that work, he'll eventually do that, but it may take a little more organizing. Do you think that initiative is timely? It is needed? How much it is supporting of Ukraine? We talked with Ponomarev. There's a paradoxical situation we have right now. He's actually a congressman, right? Whose rights were taken away illegally and he still essentially is representing his country. So there are military organizations that are fighting for freedom of Russia from Putin's regime. There is liberal opposition in the media field. What it's lacking, it doesn't have a consolidated structure. It's lacking political subject. And my question was, without a political subject, what are your chances to win? This is just not scientific. It's against political science. There's got to be political representation. You can disagree with them, you can think, not accept them, you can refuse to consider them legitimate, but there's got to be something. And there's got to be a group of people who says, okay, we are the new government, this is media, this is our military fighting on the war. Where do you do that? In Switzerland, like many things started there. Ponomarev liked Ukraine. I don't know how Ukraine treats in general that group, but personally I do support them. Today, unfortunately, there was a message, actually several messages about the threat of terrorist activity. Do you think it was fake? There could be an agent or there could be something. Well, our special services told me that there is a risk. There is a risk of terrorist act during that event, and me as official person, I had to follow their advice. So that did not happen today. But I do wish success to that story. I'm a simple man in this regard. I understand that you need a banner if you are going to fight. But to pick up the banner and to say, let's gather here, and from here, poorly or successfully will lead the effort. These people who pick up the banner, you can say anything you want about them, but you cannot say that they're weaklings and they're not courageous. These people would be taking huge risks, much bigger risks than all of us together. Because Ukraine is a sovereign country. We are fighting. Everybody recognizes we are a country. We're fighting for our rights and territories and liberties. Who are these people? Even today, in the group of some Ukrainian patriotic, in parentheses, fighters, there was a lot of humming today about these events, saying that we don't need any Russians here. But in any case, these people who are trying to organize that, they're taking a big risk. Even here in Ukraine, right? And I can say that Ilya is not the last person who can do that, right? I'm being very reserved here. He's rather talented. So I respect him and these people who are eager to pick up the banner and take that huge risk on their shoulders. And I'm glad that there is some political representation forming up. They're not saying that they need to stop war, because these days no to war is Putin's slogan, right? He wants to fix his victories in the shape they are. These people are saying we don't accept anything but victory over them. We need cleansing of Russia from Putin's regime, and we need a new Russia. We need to transform it into a new country that will find a successful place in the world family of countries and peoples. And that image that Russians are orcs with blood dripping from their fangs, that's the image they're fighting with. That's what they're trying to cleanse from the way people see Russians in the world. So these are the people who picked up the banner and who are trying to do the cleansing. They're courageous, and I think they could use our support. Just the fact that they did not fall back, did not fold away and say, no, we can't do that, that's already a big step. And then we'll see how well they do. At least now the Russians who disagree with Putin, who live inside Russia, and they don't know what to watch, which side to take, they can at least have that as the magnetic pole, where to go, whom to read, what to follow, how to organize. This is a lengthy process. I should remind you that the first gathering of communists that transformed Russia into Soviet Union, it happened in Belarus. There were 9 people there in a cozy little home. I actually visited that museum in Belarus. It did take them 20 years, but 20 years later they were ruling a huge country. So in our current pace, it could be probably 2 years, but I'm wishing them success. Okay, we've been live for about 50 minutes. Last item we have on agenda. Our charity program continues. Feygin Arestovich. We have another candidate to get some support. This is a 12-year-old Daniel Arak who lives in a village near Chernigov. His mother lost a leg as a result of Russian attack, and he is gathering money for prosthetic, and he is selling milk and trying to gather money to get a prosthetic for his mom. I'm not sure if 2,000 euro will be able to provide for a prosthetic, but perhaps it will help him to get to the proper amount. So if anybody has his contacts, please reach out to us. If he has a cell phone, their family have a cell phone, anybody from Chernigov watching us, let him know to reach out to us, and we'll find a way to transfer that money to him. When you're 12, you can't have a bank card, right? I don't remember. We'll figure it out. The main thing, yeah, help us get their contacts of this family, and we'll find a way to support them from our merch project. As you know, it is still live. The links are in the description to the video. You can buy t-shirts, mugs, even aprons. This is a Ukrainian store. We're showing up now. There are similar ones for Americas and Europe. And everything you spend there will go to support victims of this war, like Daniel Arak. Different designs, different t-shirts. Probably better. You gotta wear something, right? Better than be naked. Although, perhaps it's opposite is right for some of you, but all right. Olexiy, we talking tomorrow, right? Yes. Oh, no. Tomorrow we don't have a stream. Okay, we'll have other guests, but we'll have a stream Friday, right? Yes, Friday is on schedule. Okay, then we meet on Friday with Olexiy Arestovich. Tomorrow we have a different stream. Thank you everybody who watched us. Please do not forget to share, like, and subscribe. We had almost 400,000 watching us at the peak of this show. And subscribe to Feigin Live, Olexiy Arestovich, and Privateer Station. See you on the next one.